OTAs are over for the Carolina Panthers, and we are here to recap that as well as get you prepared for mandatory minicamp. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. We are in the thick of summer and OTAs is done. Now we have mandatory minicamp coming up next week, June 10th through the 12th, only a few days away. And so now it's time to take a look back at what we learned through OTAs, which were voluntary, though we pretty much had participation from most folks. Take some headlines heading into minicamp, the position battles that we know are going to happen, and get you prepared. And then we're going to have this long gap of 45, 46-ish days until probably a little bit longer until the Carolina Panthers report back for training camp. And unfortunately, it's going to be a limited view into what we see this year because we don't have access. So fans will not be there in attendance. Lots of good content creators not available. So we'll just watch and hear what the team reports, which may be limited. They do a great job of getting stuff out. And then also, of course, all the beat writers, reporters that cover the team, keeping us in the loop of what's actually happening on the days that they are able to attend. I don't know, with training camp and mandatory minicamp should be open and available to all media for every single day. But, the team can kind of control the messaging that comes through. So we'll keep you posted. So OTAs is in the books. And again, it's voluntary. And for the most part, we had very high participation. I think, as we went through this, last week, we got to see the Blueprint episode. If you guys have not had a chance, it's fantastic. Lots of good content creators are also featured in there within, a few clips, but good content behind the scenes on the draft. Then we come out of that, and you also have these small pieces of clips that are coming out talking through Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen, who were seen running through plays and formations after hours within the hotel space, putting chairs together. I mean, these guys could be and should be the future of the Carolina Panthers for years to come, especially if they can figure this thing out. I can't wait till we get into camp, and I know they're paired with Pat Jones, who likely could be a starter coming in, and DJ Wonham. But as I have been saying throughout the offseason and since both of these guys were drafted, the long-term plan for both of these guys should be to have them as your starters. So the transition to minicamp is a shift, man. We're now getting into players have to be here or you get fined. Fortunately for the Carolina Panthers, there aren't really any holdouts, but your veterans, some of the guys that, may have not been a full participant here, will be available. So this is year 2 of the Dave Canales era, Dan Morgan, all these guys, and we're now kind to see how this thing's going to be put together. I think the biggest thing from analyzing the front office and everything that they have done, it feels much different than Scott Fitter, and I think that's because you have a Brant Tillis that's in the mix that can help with numbers. You have a Dan Morgan, which is a football guy. You have an Eric Eager, who's an analytics guy, and you pair all these things together, and it makes for a really nice front office. And especially as they work and figure out who does what well, bouncing those things off of each other. We've even gotten to see David Tepper in a new light, and it's early, but I feel like even over this last year, we've really seen him take a step back. So I checked the box, or Dan Morgan and front office check the boxes for me for what we have seen up until this point. And it should make you feel pretty good about the team and the foundation, especially looking at the draft class and some of the potential production we may get out of these guys. You then turn over to, of course, the coaching side with Dave Canales. You remember him coming in as this happy-go-lucky guy. We often question what's going to happen when the rubber meets the road, when things get tough during the season, how are they going to handle this? And we see it in action. Of course, immediately making a decision to bench Bryce Young, two games into the season, a decision he made himself, plays out, he comes back, and just everything that he had to navigate through, but he was able to maintain it. And now we are seeing this culture building approach that's happening here with competition and accountability is the two biggest drivers. When you go back and look at the competitive environment that he's influencing here, the scoring system between the offense and defense, having someone, win particular drills, get points for this, get points for that. We talk about fostering a competitive environment and spirit, working as a team, both sides of the ball. Then, of course, later on, as we get into the season, taking all those pieces working together and then seeing it actually come into fruition. And folks, it's early, but the Carolina Panthers stock overall, the stock of the team is significantly going up. Now, it's not at a point where people are buying, where people are guaranteeing playoffs or anything like that, but it's moving in that direction to the point where people are saying wild card, dark horse to make the playoffs, should be competitive in the NFC South. And I know fans may be hesitant to sit back and like, man, we haven't made the playoffs in 7 years since Tepper's been here. Do we really think this is it? I think we're right on the cusp. I do. And it's a big year. It's an opportunity to go out there and show folks that, hey, this is a new regime, which we know, but it's year 2. And the foundation that's been set is going to catapult them forward. So we heard from all the main coaches this cycle through OTAs. Brad Idzik, who of course is your offensive coordinator, and I don't want to cut it lightly. I know he's not calling the plays, but he definitely is in the pocket there with Dave Canales. Those guys work well together. They trust each other, and I think eventually, at some point, Idzik, and I'm not saying this year, but at some point, I would think he would take over the play calling, possibly. Now, it's a much different situation than Frank Wright and Thomas Brown, where we had this back and forth battle of who's going to call the plays, what are we doing, all that. So the nice thing about this is we are getting new wrinkles and additions into the offense, and it's all because this year you're not having to teach the basics. You are to the rookies and the new additions, but there haven't been that many. It's relatively consistent across the board when you talk about the guys that are coming back. And so you can quickly get into it. I mean, you just think about like school when you go through class 101 or whatever class you're in, or foundation of math 1, you get a foundation of like, all these are the things I need to learn. You build off of that as you move to the next course. And that's what this is. Like, Carolina Panthers are able to go into the next iteration, the next version much faster because it's not new. Not only that, but when Dave Canales is coming in, he's trying to rip off all the Band-Aids of everything this team is and has been for the past 7 years of nothing, of just not having an identity and losing and trying to figure it out, and just all the off field and just not getting it right. So he's trying to start at square one, build that on top of an offense, and just being a head coach. And so getting his feet underneath him, positive sign. And we got to hear from Ejiro Evero, and I don't think there's any question that he is probably on the hottest of hot seats. But even then, when I say he's on the hot seat, I think like, okay, this is like the last year of his contract as a coordinator. I mean, considering all the in-season firings and what's happened here in Carolina, it's almost to me like, unless this thing is just absolutely abysmal, and it is the same thing as far as the rushing attack and things, rushing yards allowed on the defense side of the ball, if it's the same, there is no improvement within the first few games. I could see Canales making a firing and then promoting one of the newer guys that were brought in just as a fresh start. But you do have changes on the defensive side of the ball, defensive coaching staff. And the biggest thing for Evero is health. It's Derek Brown, and it's adding all these tools and pieces to the defensive front. There are still concerns in the secondary. That goes cornerback, safety, still concerns at the linebacker position for me personally. But at least right now, when you're playing better up front, and you should be, you are now talking about making all the guys around you better. If you can get pressure, if you can stop the run, you don't need your linebackers to be A++. You don't need your cornerbacks and safeties to be A++. It helps when you have a defensive front that can set the foundation. And you look at the new additions and the potential. So you talk about Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, and Derek Brown, and then you're now saying A'Shawn Robinson is likely a rotational piece. I mean, A'Shawn could start, but at least right now you're talking about A'Shawn in rotation. He had a pretty good year last year. You now have Cam Jackson on the defensive front, and of course, we already know and have talked about what they've added at the outside linebacker position. So, all positive. Going back to the offensive side of the ball with Bryce Young, what we're really seeing is his leadership take off for this team. The competitiveness with Bryce Young, the way that he is leading this team. And again, it's just a confidence level. It's his third year in the NFL, second year with Dave Canales and company. And he's not, this is the first off season he hasn't had to learn a new offense. So think about everything that he's had to go through. He's going to be more confident naturally because he knows it. Same thing as everyone else who understands the foundation, the schemes, what Dave Canales likes, what his strengths are, what he can do well, improvising. When you put all those pieces together, now you are now helping, hey, this guy get lined up here, or I need you to move in this way, or this is what I'm seeing with this coverage and how I move you here, here, and here. So it's all reassuring, and I think it's going to be a very big year for Bryce Young. Now, I don't know that I can define what big is just yet, but I do think it is trending in the right direction for him to have a breakout year. Again, I can't define what breakout is just yet. It's my initial thought that we're going to see him carry over from where he finished last year and even better, and a lot of it has to do with what has been brought in on the offensive side. Tetairoa McMillan, I think Hunter Renfrow is going to be competitive. Jaycee Horn Jr., Xavier Legette is going to be another level up. Jalen Coker. It's healthy competition that we just haven't seen. Of course, the reliable Adam Thielen into the mix as well. So it's a nice place for the Carolina Panthers to be in. They're getting the foundation. The momentum is building up here. And I think there's a good chance, and I don't want to say they're going to shock people, as we do have people teetering in the right direction, but I think the majority of the public still looks at the Panthers as a bad football team. They're not the worst football team anymore, but a bad football team. And so, yeah, I think there is a chance, if we want to say shock, to possibly shock some people. And I think some people are still not buying into Bryce Young. That goes with people here in Carolina, in the Carolinas, or Panthers fans across the world, as well as those outside of the Carolina Panthers. So I do think this big leap for Bryce in year 2 in the Panthers under the Dave Canales system is going to be significant. So it's exciting. Now, some of the big names that have popped up, I think, we could probably go through everyone. I'm not going to spend the time doing that today, but let's just acknowledge that Tetairoa McMillan, first-round selection, looks the part. The size, his speed, his work ethic, working with Coach Moore, the wide receivers coach. This guy, body control, you watch him run his routes, him catching with his hands, learning from the veterans, Adam Thielen and Hunter Renfrow, and he is just eager to absorb the wisdom that he gets from these guys. Playing fast, he's coachable, and all those things line up for him to, I think, have a big year. And I think I put out a graphic on YouTube, put it out on X, Instagram, of the Panthers rookie wide receiver mark with Kelvin Benjamin a little over 1,000 yards, 1,008, I believe. I think he has a chance to potentially break that. Ways to go, but I do think so. Jaycee Horn Jr. is another name when he was out there. Now, he also had a little bit of a setback with a soft tissue injury. I think the Panthers made a wise decision to just let him, heal up. It's no reason to rush through what we're in now. Get him ready for training camp. But I think he's going to, as you look at a 6th-round selection, the ability to impact as a return, probably punt and kicks, as well as the speed factor within his game and how he can open up the tops of the defense. We really haven't had a true speed. Now, Xavier Legette has looked speedy and he's gotten open. And when you have Tetairoa McMillan, Davian Sanders, Hunter Renfrow, Adam Thielen, Coker, all those guys out there, of course, not at the same time on every play, but when you have some of those guys stacked around you, it takes the pressure off Xavier. We've mentioned the two rookie outside linebackers in Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Mielen. Their commitment to just putting in the work after hours, running through the play formations in their hotel, strong dedication to mastering the playbook. I mean, through this, we have to remember that Scorton is not signed yet. Second round pick has not signed. You can compare this situation to Shamar Stewart, who's with the Cincinnati Bengals, who is not signed, and he's also holding out and not participating. So I think the work ethic that they are trying to drive here shows you how much it means to these guys, and it's in a positive direction. Now, second year jumps and potential veteran surprises. So for me, I believe as it sits right now, unless there's a signing, which potentially can happen, that Demani Richardson is likely your starting free safety paired alongside Trayvon Merrick coming up. And I think that's great. You talk about an undrafted free agent, a guy that got a lot of playing time last year. He's shown some flashes, made some plays. I think he got an interception. He checks the box. The depth behind him is, something to worry about. You have Ransom and you have Nick Scott. So I still think you need to bring in a little bit more, at least one guy. But we'll see as we get closer. Shaw Smith-Wade stepping up as the nickelback, also looking better in coverage, more comfortable, generating a turnover as well. That versatility is something that we're going to need. You look at the three with Mike Jackson. I know some people are still concerned about Mike Jackson, but I think having a better defensive front is going to make this thing okay. And not to mention, folks, these guys are going on air. We have to remember that. They're practicing on air. And so, and with no pass rush in a lot of these drills. And so guys are going to get open. Players make catches in the NFL. Not every single pass is an incompletion. We see that's going to naturally happen. The offense is going to get open and make plays. And I think people overreact to some of the things that they see on there. Now, I've talked about Xavier. Just talk about the offseason for this guy off the field, everything that he's done, Kentucky Derby, surgery for one thing. We're actually going to do a deep dive on Xavier by himself, just looking at everything heading into this year. But you talk about his offseason, NHL, Carolina Hurricanes, now Glorilla, inner music video. Everyone's talking about all this. I think he's setting himself up well to have a fantastic year here in Carolina. And it's kind of similar to, I don't think we're talking him going out and getting 1,000 yards, but in the realm of 700 yards, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know, 9's a lot, but 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns paired with that should be a nice second sophomore year for him. So excited to see those guys moving forward. Now, your competition battles as we move into minicamp, that's probably the most important thing. Wide receiver room, a lot of depth. It's crowded. It's competitive. Tetairoa McMillan, we would say, is a lock. Xavier is a lock. Adam Thielen is a lock. Then we get into a bunch of other guys. Not necessarily other guys, but you have Jalen Coker, Jimmy Horn Jr., David Moore, and Hunter Renfrow. So out of that group, and I think that puts you at like 7, if I can add 7 wide receivers. I think the Panthers keep 6. That's me personally. So more than likely there is going to be an odd man out. And like, we're not even talking about Dan Chisena or Jacoby George, Jacoby Hudson, these undrafted free agents that also could sneak in. Carolina Panthers talk about being developmental and getting these young guys reps. So things could change. And, they decide to go younger at one place over the other. But at least as it sits right now, I look at 6 to make the roster. Now, the center position, the battle between Austin Corbett and Cade Mays, it seems like it's early. But Cade Mays has been taking a lot of the first-team reps in OTAs. You think about Austin Corbett, 3 injuries over the last, 2-3 years. his kind of a little bit of a setback, not the greatest situation to be in for him, but coming back to compete. That's why he did it. That's why he wanted to come back here in Carolina. But I look at Caden Mays to lead it. He's a little bit younger, maybe a little more upside with him, and you still have underneath that Brady Christensen in the mix. What could get interesting is one of these teams that have had a center retire, whoever you decide is going to land here, who's going to be your starter, if you feel confident, and then you feel confident about Brady Christensen, or you bring back Andrew Rain, there's a potential to move one of these guys to another team and, contribute, give them a starting center. You wouldn't get a lot. You wouldn't be moving them necessarily to bring in a big resource or haul. It's more to, hey, we'll just, give you this guy and we'll get an extra draft pick in compensation. I mentioned the cornerback depth. So again, Jaycee Horn, Mike Jackson, Shaw Smith-Wade, that's your starting when you throw in the nickel. We get into kind of this mix of Shamar Bartholomew and a Caleb Evans. They have made some plays. They're young, unproven. I'm still hesitant to say yes, we've got it solved. But again, you can't do everything. And if you focus on the fact that the defensive front is in a better position than it was last year, maybe you feel like, okay, we're going to be okay. And of course, there's a few other competition battles I'm still interested in the outside linebacker room, as well as what's going to happen on some of the spots in the defensive front, linebacker. Those things matter to me. We talked about safety, but you have Matthew Wright and Ryan Fitzgerald in the kicking competition. Hats are going to be tipped to Matthew Wright early. I'll be curious to see as we actually get into this thing and see some preseason how it all plays out in the long run. So that would be your last battle. And then returns, I think just understanding that the return game between ETN and Raheem Blackshear coming off of that. So the only other thing we will talk through today, I believe, as I go through my notes, we may have a little more, but right now, some of the injuries that have occurred, I've touched on them. We know Jalen Coker had a soft tissue injury earlier, but he was back and practicing, so we feel good there. Jimmy Horn Jr., I mentioned also, he's going to miss some time, being cautious. Notable news, Tommy Tremble had back surgery. He is going to miss significant time, probably through training camp, possibly time into preseason. I'm not going to get too concerned just yet, but it does worry me is that the Panthers really have two tight ends right now. I know they've got three undrafted guys or second-year practice squad type players and a rookie, but undrafted free agent rookie, but I'm not feeling too good between Mitchell Evans and Jatavian Sanders. Only I am about them, but for the depth piece. DJ Wanham also, as we talk about, these guys working themselves back and who's going to compete to start, working through another back injury or coming off of that. So that is a little bit concerned, but not too much. So I believe that is the only significant news. So yeah, we're going to gear up for mandatory minicamp here, continuing to see these guys. And it's 3 days. It is competitive, but there's only so much that we're going to learn over the next few days. And it really, as we say, the rubber meets the road here in a few weeks. It's more than a few weeks, but a month and a half or so. Late July, early August, this show will get on the road and football is going to be here before you know it. So anyways, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.